And finally, the Basis Project first conference has the very first public appearance of the infamous James Casbolt, aka Michael Prince. Let's make it very clear, on most normal levels, James comes over as a fake and a fraud. If you look very carefully, people say he's lying. I am suggesting that we need to look at this very carefully indeed. This will essentially be the closeout of any coverage I'm doing with Casbolt. What he's saying in this series of statements which he made public, including his public statement of mass assassination of people at Sotheby's in the United States. If he's done all this, you know, the police should be around and pick him up and lock him away. There are too many questions every time he speaks. On the face of it, he's a clear fantasist, a fraud. During this lecture, certain people contacted me and confirmed that he did assassinate a drug dealer in Hyde Park, which he mentions in a previous basis. Secondly, another person knew and met James when he was 8 years old and confirms James's story about drugs and drug dealing and drug taking. His father, who went to jail and died shortly afterwards, is all confirmed by a person in the audience. The bottom line is, it's all very bad news. James also says he volunteered, he opted for the dark side. So one way or another, this is not good news. What I am concentrating on is who is running Casbolt. What's behind all this? Why should a loser, a fake and a fraud end up marrying and having a child with one of the most rich and prominent Jewish families in the world? Why would they bother allowing their precious daughter to even associate with such a loser, a fake and a fraud? There are too many questions here. And for this reason, the Basis Project presents raw data for others to analyze and check and do their own research for. So this is James Casbolt, that is Michael Prince, at the very first Basis Project conference in the Barge Inn, April 27th, 2014. Fake, fraud, fantasist, or something else. Make your own mind up, do your own research. Look at things in the broad, in the wide, and in the close up, and be very careful where you tread on this. This is the matrix we're dealing with, to use a rather overused word. Be very careful. And I'm fully aware that I'm playing with fire. And the gecko, or the gecko, the lizard brass artwork on the wall, specially put up just before the conference started, is the Celtic sign of fire. So yes, we are playing with fire here. Michael Prince at the Barge, April 27th. Okay, my name is Miles Johnson. This is the Basis Project, and beside me we have one of the most controversial interviewees that I've been doing over the last 20 years. Basic concept is he telling the truth? Is it real? Is it all fiction, faction? What's involved? Big mystery, a lot of controversy. So this is the very first time that we have Michael Prince to speak in public. We'll have questions and answers afterwards, although if, Michael, if you want to have an answer a question, it's entirely up to you.
Yeah, I'll do it at the end.
Yeah. So this is Michael's very first presentation, and we let you take it away. Just let me get that
away. Okay, so you all know me. Let me have a look at you all. So who here is familiar with the Maya Inc. crime family? Raise your hands. Nobody? One? Okay. That is my son is part of that family in America, and that is a Rothschild family. And the family it's the most financially and politically powerful family in America. And it's, I mean, the family is effectively a sex and death cult. You know? And I don't have a problem with that, but we're not going to make the we're not going to get the Jewish princesses pregnant and then be cast aside. You know, that's the bottom line with it. Who's familiar with Pindar here? The head of the Illuminati, a few people, okay? His identity has never been revealed before, and that is the father of my wife. She's still legally my wife. Is Pindar, and his name is Hank Meyer. He's a billionaire in he's the vice chairman of the Gerald Ford Presidential Foundation, and you can all go on that website. You'll see him listed there as like I said, the vice chairman. And if you go into the officer and trustee section, you'll see the officers and trustees listed there, his close friends, as Henry Kissinger, Donald Rumsfeld, Alan Greenspan, and a few other well-known names in that family. You know, they're trying to steal our genes in that effectively and breed us, our bloodline, into that family, because it's a Jewish family. And you know, we're not going to, like I say, we're not going to make these Jewish princesses pregnant and then have our babies and then just be cast aside. You know, that's not going to happen. They run the financial power on the ground, but when it comes to technology, I have that power, and which is equal to their power, and is effectively it's more powerful. I mean, you all know my history. I was so you'll say you don't, okay. I was raised in a Jesuit orphanage in Canada, in British Columbia, and I spent from 1976 there to 1979 in this place. I've been involved with Opus Dei heavily. I've been involved with the Vatican heavily, and I was indoctrinated into MI6 SIS at 5 years old, and I was trained. I came over to England in 79. You know, I settled into England in the early 80s with a foster family. That's the Casbolt family, and I was indoctrinated into that. I started live operations in my teens with them, and that was under the cover of drug wars in London and in areas like Brighton. I was given diplomatic immunity in my teens, and I killed my first man when I was 16 years old in Brighton, and that was a child porn ring that was being run there. There was a guy involved in that, and I shot him outside a place called the Shark Bar on the Brighton seafront in broad daylight in front of multiple witnesses. I've got over 200 confirmed kills since I was a teenager, all through the 90s and from 2000 to 2012. And then I was, after that I was traded over to the NSA and I moved to America. Spent the last 3 years in America, as you probably know. I returned to this country in October last year. I was effectively forced out of the country for legal reasons, and I'm wanted nationwide in America. I've got an extradition warrant for me in America. No matter what state I enter America in, I will be extradited to California to stand trial. And I'm wanted nationwide there. I entered the U.S. Army in 2012. I was fast-tracked in, and I was given my green card through the Army. It was expedited, so the process was speeded up because they had to get me in before my 35th birthday. Because you have to enter basic training in the US Army before you're 35. I'm 37 now. I was in something called the Future Soldier Program before I was officially enlisted into the US Army. And I was on that program for around 12 months. And then I started basic training at a place called Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri. And I was put into the most elite unit, most elite infantry unit in the US Army, a group called Echo 210. And I spent 9 weeks basic training with this unit at a place called Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri. Then I was shipped to a place called Fort Sam in Texas, in San Antonio there. And I spent about a year there. My son was born on my birthday, December 28th. It says on his birth certificate that he was born at a military test facility on the base there. And I can't remember all the details because I'm so chipped up. But he was born at the end of 2012. I finished, the base was called Fort Sam Houston, and there's connections Houston to the space program, which I won't get into now. And then I left the US Army around December 2012, and I was put straight into the NSA from there, because NSA are based in 3 places in America: San Antonio, Maryland, and Denver.
Give me a second. You've just lost your reading.
Okay.
2 seconds. Sorry, mate. There you go. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Right, cheers, mate. Thank you.
So where was I? Yep, I was put in, recruited out the I was recruited from the Army into the NSA in 2012, and I was again working as an assassin on an assassination campaign there against the Rothschild banking family. A lot of that was in New York. You've probably seen the pictures of me with the Duke of Marlborough at Sotheby's in New York. And we were officially, I mean, Miles has seen some of the documentation from NSA, with my name on it. Officially it was the NSA, but I was working with a unit, it was actually Opus Dei again, in the Vatican. And there was a hit carried out in Sotheby's around this time. It was against Evelyn Rothschild. Who's familiar with Evelyn Rothschild? A few people, yeah. Probably richest man in the world. Not a billionaire, actually a trillionaire, this guy. So rich that the man can build colonies on Mars, believe it or not. And on this night I was there. By the time my son was 6 months old, he'd already been on 14 plane trips around America to different states. And because when I was involved in the assassination campaign, I took my family with me to the places where I was going, my son and my wife. And the night at Sotheby's, we arrived there, my wife and my mother-in-law, Deborah Meyer, and there was a kind of mini riot going on outside. We pulled up in the car. There was riot police there. It was the Occupy Wall Street people who were outside demonstrating. And that's actually a CIA front, as people probably know, or maybe they don't. So we got out of the car, and there was, people running up to us. I was like in a tux and bow tie. And there was people running up to us saying, "Hey, mother, you're going up there to count some money?" And like just hurling abuse at us, hurling abuse at my wife, saying like "F you" and your dress and things like that. And we went up there and met the Duke of Marlborough, and there was Lady Henrietta Spencer Churchill, who's his daughter. She was there, and it was an auction. It was actually an auction at Sotheby's that night. It was a fundraiser for Blenheim Palace, and we sat down, we had our meal and everything, and the Rothschild entourage was sat. We were sat to the left. The Rothschild entourage was sat in the middle of the room on a table. There was about 9 of them sat there in the middle, and Evelyn Rothschild was with them. Most of the people there had their pictures taken and were put on a website called the New York Social Diary, and people can look that up. And Evelyn Rothschild wasn't actually photographed that night, but he was there. So, I picked him out of the crowd and went into the lavatory there. And there was, you have attendants at these places in the lavatories, they give you aftershave and stuff like that. And the attendant in there was an Opus Dei operative. And I went in, he gave me the signal, and I went into one of the stalls, and there was, it had already been prepared beforehand. There was a Smith & Wesson 9mm pistol taped underneath the cistern, and there was a Heckler & Koch submachine gun in a compartment behind the wall there. And I untaped the pistol and cocked it and put it in my waist, and took the machine gun out and just held it in my hand. There was nobody in the lavatory at that time. Just held it in my hand and cocked it, and then walked out. And the Opus Dei operative gave me the signal, which is always in Latin, and that's it kind of puts you in the mode there. And I simply just walked out and walked over to the table and started shooting them in the back of the head. the people who were facing opposite way. And I emptied the magazine and dropped the gun on the floor, pulled out the Smith & Wesson and started shooting people in the face who were facing me. And most of them, in situations like this, most people freeze. You know, everything just goes silent. Most people freeze. But Evelyn Rothschild, you know, he's hard. You know, I take my hat off to him. I got a lot of respect for the guy. And he got out of the way. He was one of the few people that didn't freeze. And he got shot in the chest, but managed to run off to the right. And then once people realised what was going on, the whole place just erupted then, and people were running around screaming. And I grabbed my wife and my mother-in-law, and we ran downstairs and ran into a car outside, a car waiting for us. And that was one example. You know, there was at least 20 hits I did in America at the time. And this all led up to the situation with me getting kicked out of America. You know, like I say, I can't step foot on American soil. It was all set up for once the baby was born, and he was born on a military test facility at Fort Sam. It was all set up that once they got my genes, they would effectively make me leave the country. And my wife and I were living in San Antonio in an apartment there at the time, and Hank started to send his slaves down to infiltrate our lives, his mind control slaves, which would do anything for him under threat of death. And first of all, how the events triggered, my mother-in-law came down and she said, our trustee, another banker, because my wife and I were living off trusts at the time, I was effectively a millionaire in the country, said, the trustee has said that you and Haley have to split up. And they were in control of the finances, so I had to leave and go and stay in a hotel in San Antonio. And we'd already gone to San Francisco at the time, just a few weeks before, and we got an apartment set up because we were moving to San Francisco, because I never liked Texas, it was too hot there. And we were supposed to be involved with Dr. Michael Aquino in the NSA. He lives on a place called Russian Hill, near where our apartment was in San Francisco. And I effectively had to leave my family of being separated because I had no financial clout because the trustees and bankers were in charge of our trust. So I had to leave and go to the hotel with my wife and son, travelled up to San Francisco to with my mother-in-law to go up there. And you know, I ended up staying in the hotel for a month, and towards the end of it, you know, San Antonio's crawling with NSA operatives. They approached me again and said, we want you to pick up documents from Fort Sam which relate to your involvement in the US UFO program and the space program. And we want you, there's photographs of your involvement, there's documents, there's signatures, and we want you to collect these documents from generals at Fort Sam, and then we want you to publicize these documents as proof for what you're saying. So they delivered a car to me outside in the car park, and it was a blue Mini Cooper with the number plate was 007 SBC. And Miles has seen the pictures, Miles publicised the pictures of that. There was an NSA sticker in the window, a Fort Meade, Maryland sticker, Department of Defense. And they delivered the car, and they said, we're sending you a partner to go and collect these documents from Fort Sam. Guess who turned up? Max Spears turned up, another NSA operative, and was supposed to be here today, threatening to come here, but he's not because he's a coward. And he turned up, and we drove to the base, met with the generals, picked these documents up, and drove back to the hotel. And we were sitting in the car, and we were just chatting, and he pulled out a pistol from his belt and just aimed it like this at me and shot me in the head with it. And then stole the documents and walked off with them. He was living in Dallas at the time, and I was down in southern Texas in San Antonio. You know, the guy is like programmed by the NSA to be like my ultimate stalker. You know, the guy's got like a homosexual crush on me, and everywhere I've been in the world, he gets sent by the NSA to follow me there, and it's been happening my whole life. When I was in Brighton as a youngster, he was there in Brighton. When I went to Texas, he came to Texas. Like I say, he was in Dallas, I was in San Antonio. After all these events, I followed my wife up to San Francisco. He followed me up to San Francisco with his girlfriend, who was his handler. And he was trying to move into my wife's apartment with her. He was saying the documents included my wife's Monarch triggers. My wife's a presidential model through Gerald Ford in Michigan, near where Kathy O'Brien lived in Muskegon. And it had all our codes on it, which you can get her to do anything if you got the codes, literally anything. You know, if you can tell her a horse is an elephant, and she'll see an elephant. And like I say, he shot me in the head, made off with the documents, and I was I was obviously injured, like seriously injured, picked up by an ambulance and taken to a certain military facility, underground facility in New Mexico desert, in Dulce. And my next memory, I woke up on a Greyhound bus, traveling through the desert there, and just near the facility there's a big mountain range, and I showed Miles a picture of the base there, and it's got a holographic cover in front of the mountain, which you can clearly see on the picture. And I was regenerated at the facility. My injuries were regenerated there, and I was healed. The plan was to say that I lost my family and shot myself in Texas. That was the plan. And they were going to keep me underground. They were going to keep me at Dulce. And I shouldn't really be here talking to you. I shouldn't really be in the human environment. But here I am, standing here. So, and I'm able to tell you this. I was regenerated at the facility. Then I was kept in a cell there. And like I say, they weren't going to let me out. They were going to keep me down there. But I managed, by bust myself out of the facility, which has happened before. I've been kept on military bases, under arrest at military bases, and I've got myself out of them. It's it's very hard to constrain me. It's hard to contain me. There was generals, U.S. Army generals, and also Navy and Air Force that I was connected to in America in all different states, and I had their phone number, and I was in the cell. I found a way to telepathically dial their phone numbers from the cell with no phones, and through that I was able to get out the facility and was put on a Greyhound bus by Homeland Security agents and made my way to San Francisco there. And managed to get back to my family. Spent about a month there. During this time, Haley had plastic surgery and had her face reconstructed. And there was a woman called Lorian Fenton who Miles was involved with at the summit. And Haley's face was all bandaged up. And Lorian was going around telling people that I'd beaten Haley up. Which I didn't. I nursed her. I looked after her for 2 weeks. After she had the facial reconstruction surgery, because they wanted to get me, because they were going to get me to leave the country, and then they were going to hide her and the baby, and nobody knows where she is. I don't know where she is. I don't know where the baby is. There's rumours that she's in LA. There's rumours that she's in New York. And this, once I arrived in San Francisco, this is when Hank Meyer, Pindar, started to send his slaves to infiltrate our lives. And a whole network of them just appeared. There was psychologists involved, there was divorce lawyers involved, the police were turning up all the time at the door, knocking on the door, harassing us, asking stupid questions like, is the landlord in, do you know where he is? And this is when Max Spears and Sarah Adams turned up. They were sending Haley about 15 texts a day each, and they were triggering her through text. And Max Spears sent Haley a text. He'd actually, when I was shot and when I was at Dulce, he waited till I was out the way and was calling Haley and having like 2-hour conversations with her, triggering her, telling her he wants to have sex with her and all this. And Sarah was contacting Haley saying, I'm bisexual, I want to come up there and have a bubble bath party with you, things like that. And Max said, if you let Sarah and I come up and kick Michael out and let us move into the apartment, I'll get a job in a heartbeat. And because he was making himself out to be the hero, making me out to be the bad guy, and I'm not a good guy or a bad guy. I'm bad and evil. And all the super soldiers are really dark. They're all involved in human sacrifice, ritual murder, all of them. But I'm the only one who's going to come here and tell you the truth. I'm the only one who's going to come here and be honest with you. I'm not going to assault your intelligence and make myself out to be a light warrior and all love and all this, like they all do. Because that's not how it is. All the super soldiers are dark. And it's that simple. So they were triggering her, and she agreed. She says, yeah, come up, come up and move into the apartment. And then they kept sending texts saying, yeah, but you got to kick Michael out, like this. So she said, right, you've got to leave, Michael. And I'm like, I left a career, I had a home in England, and your family said if I come to America, I'd be looked after. And I don't know anybody in America, I've got no friends, I know where, where am I supposed to go? And she was basically, that's not my problem. You got to go. You can go and stay in a hotel again. I'd already just spent a month in a hotel in Texas. And I said, well, I'm not going because I don't know anybody. So she says, well, I'm going to call the police. So the police turned up, armed police. And I said, I'm not going to fight you here. So I'll leave. And then I was taken to a hotel again by the police. Spent a couple of weeks in a hotel. Max and Sarah came up, moved into the apartment, and he's posting pictures on Facebook of him holding my son, and videos of him holding my son, shaking my son. Him posting pictures on his Facebook with his feet up in my front room, like, screw you, Michael, like, we control your family now. And Michael Aquino got involved, Lorien Fenton, Douglas Dietrich, Michael Aquino's right-hand man, who he worked with at Presidio. They were all coming to the apartment, and it was just surrounded by handlers. And, Michael Aquino lived near us on Russian Hill, and we were being taken to Bohemian Grove in the area for rituals, satanic rituals. There was a lot of torture going on. Ended up with me in Marin County Hospital through one particular ritual at the time, where I was seriously injured. And Miles has got the pictures, he publicised those, me in hospital. There's police guarding my bed. I've got a morphine drip in my arm. And they gave me so much morphine that it didn't actually work, it didn't actually do anything. And I went through a particular satanic ritual which is very popular, where they crucify you upside down and get a ritual dagger and carve a piece of your liver out in the most excruciating, painful place. And then they feed off the fat around your liver because they believe that it extends their life. And I ended up in hospital through being injured. And then I knew I was taken in by Defense Intelligence Agency, one particular person. I stayed with him in LA after that. I had to get out of the area, or actually San Bernardino, near LA. And then I returned to England.
Can I ask a question? What is a super soldier?
What is a super soldier? A transhuman, the next stage in human evolution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coming about how?
I'll take questions at the end.
Okay.
So, I was placed in a tiny little flat with my mother, who's effectively a vampiric control freak. And stuck in a tiny little flat with my mother and stripped of all financial resources. And that's where I am at the moment. So, and how long have I got left?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Right, I mentioned the list then for the last 10 minutes. Because I grew up in this Jesuit orphanage in Canada, and because I've been involved with the Vatican, officially been involved with SIS, MI6 and NSA all my life, but unofficially it was run by the Vatican. supported by a lot of soldiers within Opus Dei, religious fanatics who were suicide soldiers. And these people, you know, they wear cilice around their leg for 2 hours a day to self-mutilate themselves. It's who here is familiar with a cilice? Over there, okay. Yeah, it's a band with all like blades and nails on the inside, and they pull it really tight. They have to wear that for 2 hours a day to mutilate themselves. They mutilate their backs every day through self-flagellation, because they're suicide soldiers. They've been conditioned since they were children for suicide missions, and a list has been drawn up of people who are involved in what I've just mentioned, who are involved against me in what I've just mentioned, and around 50 Opus Dei soldiers have been sent out against these people all over the world, and they can't be recalled now. They've been sent out. Even if people in the Vatican, even if myself wanted to recall them, we couldn't, because they've gone dark. They've changed their identities. They've all taken vows of poverty, so they can't be bought off by the billionaires. And like I said, they can't be recalled, and they've been sent out. The list was published, and already there's about 3 people on the list who have been murdered, and this will continue to happen, and I can't stop it because they can't be recalled. It's that simple. You know, they change their identities. Nobody knows where they are. Nobody knows who they are. So, in essence, a civil war has broken out amongst the super soldiers, and it's their job to survive it. You know. But I told Hank, I told Pindar, I said, I want to be left alone with my family. Don't send your slaves to infiltrate our lives, and everything will be fine. I told him this, and but you know, they were still sent in. So I didn't start this. You know, I said I want to be left alone. I didn't start this, but now events have gone into motion that can't be stopped. And this is all. This war wants to. They want the public to see this war as a demonstration into super soldier abilities. Yeah. They want to demonstrate us to the public. You know, like I say, Max Spears was in Brighton, followed me to Brighton, followed me to Texas, followed me to San Francisco, and then followed me over here now. He's in the country, and was supposed to be here today, but he's not here. So Macau has talked about it on Basis 36. I'm being prepared in the Blue Beam type project, being prepared by the Vatican to be presented by the Vatican as someone who was prophesied to come. A figure named Peter Romanus. And this is all supposed to be a big public demonstration, so the public can see what's going on. And it's very dark. You know, I'm supposed to talk you all through it. I'm supposed to talk the public through it. So there's not mass panic. Of what's occurring here, because ultimately the agenda is there's a lot of these non-human creatures in underground bases, everybody knows. I've seen all different types of races, and they want to bring them onto the surface, and they want to trigger the age of Set. They want to trigger mass chaos in society. And, I've seen non-humans walking around in daylight in America and even in England, in different places. Blatantly non-human people walking around. And everybody's so politically correct, nobody will say anything. It's like the emperor's new clothes. People think they're deformed and don't want to be rude, don't want to stare, because they got everybody in a trance. I've seen one guy walking along in a leather jacket and sunglasses on, carrying a briefcase with dinosaur hands. As bizarre as that sounds, big like dinosaur hands with claws on, big nails on the end. And it's not any shape shifting. This is what he looks like. And people don't want to look. People don't want to stare because they're politically correct. I've seen women in Michigan with extended necks, extended heads, walking around. And then people doing double takes and then looking at the ground. The whole thing is to trigger the age of Set. It's kind of the age of chaos. And they're doing this with, they're spraying a lot of blood, they're spraying human blood in the air. And other things. And this is creating very much, Age of Set as a sexualized society. And this is causing pedophilia to become rife. It's happening in 1 in every 3 households now, pedophilia, because of all the blood they're spraying in the air. A lot of people are DID, they don't realise they're fiddling with their kids. Like I say, the agenda, this is where it's all moving into. It's not even moving into, it's happening now. That's where it's at, that's where I'm at. I think that's the 10 minutes. How long have I got?
Okay, if we have a quick break, then Tony Topping or just a quick Q&A and that'll be it.
Okay. Yeah.
Or do you want to do a slow Q&A with yourself?
Yeah, you can do a Q&A, that's fine, yeah. I'll just ask me whatever you want.
Okay, well, the material that Michael or James is referring to is on the Basis project. We've shot Basis 24, which has got the Gridkeeper in it, and a couple of others, and a long interview with Michael in Cornwall. And that will be put out in maybe 6 or 7 weeks till I can get the back archive together. And all the other material that he's referring to is on the Basis project on YouTube. And some of it's on your site you're pointing. Do you have a website?
Yeah, there's a new website, yeah. jamescasbolt.co.uk.
Yeah. So if the people want to refer to this, they can. And there's lots of forums on the internet about this. There's an awful lot of controversy about this, and a lot of toing and froing. So, anybody want to ask questions?
Yeah. Like I say, it was the Vatican where I grew up in the Jesuit orphanage in Canada, a place called the Q552 facility. It's in a little small town in the Rocky Mountains called Nelson. And I grew up for the first 4 years of my life there, from 76 to 79. And then was put into a foster family in England.
But that wouldn't make you take part in all this sort of stuff that you've been part of. I mean, it must make you terribly unhappy.
No, I mean, I've enjoyed it, to be honest. So, my body's been changed. My whole brain chemistry has been rewired to enjoy killing. So there's no regrets. Yeah.
If you've killed so many people, and certainly in a very public situation like at Sotheby's, you know, this business with Evelyn Rothschild, I mean, there must be a public record of him being shot, people being shot in the face, people being, killed. I mean, have you looked for that in the newspapers and seen anything?
There's been some of the murders have been publicised. The one in Sotheby's was brushed under the rug. That was never publicised.
There's going to be a lot of people in that place to brush that under the rug, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
This was the man that got me into this network, got me close to the Rothschilds, was a friend of ours, a man named Peter Lydon, and his picture's on the New York Social Diary. There's actually a picture of me in the the New York National History Museum. Miles publicised that picture. They got an artefact out of the cabinet. It's a large topaz, isn't it? Called the Brazilian Princess, and I'm holding that. And Peter Lydon's standing behind me. He's actually Princess Diana's cousin, Peter Lydon, and he advises Prince William and Kate Middleton on philanthropy, what charities to give to. And he was a friend of my wife and I. He was the one who got me close to the Rothschilds. He was the one who invited us that night in Sotheby's to the place. So some of it for revenge, what happened to Diana.
do you think your story is hard for people to believe?
It depends where people's heads are at. You know, I produce a lot of proof to what I'm saying.
Obviously, it's really disturbing for some of us to see you say that you enjoy killing.
Yeah.
Going back to when you were growing up, you were desensitised, however you were programmed.
Yep.
Yep, from a young child. You wouldn't, if you had a gun now, would you enjoy killing us, or is it only when you get triggered to kill us?
Well, I mean,
Where does the line
you haven't done anything to me.
yet? No. You know, you said the guy that sprays the aftershave, he said something in Latin.
Yeah.
You programmed in some kind of way that will set a trigger, so therefore you are not you anymore, and that other alter of you then enjoys the pursuit.
I'm still me, I'm just more pumped up. It activates a lot of the implants in my body. You know, especially some of the ones around the back of my neck. It's like a kind of crab-like insect. And they go up and they're in the back of the meat of my brain, these implants.
How do you feel about that?
It's uncomfortable.
Do you feel violated?
Do I feel violated? No, I volunteered for it. I don't feel violated. I got no regrets, and I wouldn't change any of it. But it's uncomfortable to have all this stuff in my body. I always have to do things to take the edge off it. You know. And that particular implant just makes you more aggressive, makes you more pumped up. And that's what's activated, for instance, at Sotheby's by the Opus Dei guy. Yeah.
So when did you have the implants?
They were put in, I started to be kind of cybernized, quote unquote, in the orphanage in Canada when I was a child.
So you didn't volunteer for it then, it was late?
Well, you could say that. Yeah, but all that stuff started to get put in as a child, you know, and it slowly grew with me.
So you're saying the Vatican's an evil organisation?
I've gone past any ideas of good and evil. It's about survival, you know. So I wouldn't call it good or evil. It's good and evil. Yeah.
Would you be happy to be put in jail for murdering people if it was provable that you had done it? Would you like to sort of spend your life in jail? Because I mean, talking about what you claim to have done seems to me like if you give the proof, there's a one-way ticket to jail.
No, I wouldn't like to spend the rest of my life in jail. Definitely not. But bottom line is I've got diplomatic immunity, so I'm not going to jail.
Can I ask you, Michael, how long it will be with you? How long will it be, do you think, before you snap and the innocent suffer?
I'm in control of myself.
Do you think you are?
Yeah, I know I am.
Do you think it could happen that the innocent might suffer
No.
with you after what you've said?
No, I don't.
You don't think that?
I'm not going to go out on a killing rampage with an AK-47. You know, I'm calm, I'm in control. I plan what I do. I'm rational. Yeah.
Promise. Promise, yeah.
Yeah.
Speak up.
List.
Was that list published?
Yeah, the list was published on, I published it on Facebook about 5 times. The list is mostly people in the UFO community.
I'm even on the list.
The list is divided into people under threat and people not under threat. And because the whole ufology is a joke, it's, you know, a lot of the women involved, black witches, and they're going to tell you they're here to help everyone. A lot of the women involved in ufology, and they're involved in ritual child murder.
So they're the ones who are going to do that?
People are already starting to die on the list. Yeah.
So those are the ones that are like on the list?
Michael Hemmingson died. He was on it. He died. Former White Hat. Yep, he was.
Got the Geldof girl.
Peaches Geldof was on it. Yep. And
So is the list not available still? Is it? Has it gone now?
yeah, it's on Facebook. On my Facebook. Yep.
Who are the people who have gone down in some of this?
It was a Rothschild contingent. Evelyn Rothschild and about 9 of his family members.
Did it reach the press that Nathaniel Rothschild was?
Yeah, it was reported in the alternative press, but then I don't know if they replaced him with a clone or something, because there was a lookalike walking around after him. But also Leopold Rothschild was taken out during the assassination campaigns in London, and he was dead.
Is there an internal war?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. You did mention Mikhail. Mikhail was meant to be here. Do you want to say anything about what he said? No.
Okay, fair enough.
He's not able to be here.
Okay.
Mikhail has appeared in the latest Spaces by
I'll say
a week
things
ago.
privately, I don't want to say
Yeah,
anything.
okay, but he was meant to be here. So he's not here. He's not here because he just doesn't wish to be here.
Yeah, I understand.
I'll leave it at that.
I understand.
But he did want to be here.
Okay.
What motivates you to live?
What motivates me to live? To survive. I want to
To
survive.
survive what? To survive death?
Yeah. I don't want to die
Because
because I like living. I want to extend my life. I want to live as long as possible.
do you have any memories of being alive before?
Yeah. Officially on my birth certificate, I was born in London in 1976, which is not true at all. goes before that, but I'm not going to get into that now because it's really complicated.
What's going to happen to the normal human? I mean, if the super soldiers are coming out and if they want that to come out, so say that we witness the battle between the super soldiers and the ETs, for example. I mean, are we all going to be upgraded to join in? I mean, it's not going to be a spectacle, is it? I mean,
That's exactly what's happening. Everyone's being upgraded. Everyone's being dragged closer to us.
yeah.
Everyone's being, their evolution is being accelerated through this.
Yeah.
And that's why, they're spraying so much blood in the air and things like that.
Yeah. So does that mean we're all going to be?
Everyone's being dragged closer to us. Yeah.
To prevent this with all the blood and stuff to refrain from affecting your consciously.
It's supposed to happen. It's changing everybody. Like I was saying, the age of set is a sexualized society. And, it's making changes.
I mean, Michael, you've been saying an awful lot of stuff to a lot of ladies. What do you have to say to them, or what that's all about?
I mean, it's ridiculous to say that I annoy females when I've got lines of women contacting me, like groupies. And then, they're saying they want me to rape them with balaclavas on, and things like that. So, it's like...
Okay, any last questions? Because we've only got about a few more minutes before Tony has to go. Do you want to go up and...
I can do, mate.
If you just stick that microphone on.
Is James going to stand with me?
You don't want to be standing with James?
No, certainly not on camera, no. Certainly not, matey, no.
Okay, is that the last question for Michael at the moment?
Okay, good stuff.